Vince Russo should have never been allowed in wrestling. I'm John Rentham with a retro review of WCW Thunder from October 4th, 2000. We start with the Natural Born Thrillers and Shane Douglas and Tori Wilson in the parking lot. And Douglas takes Sanders aside. Hey, you're doing a great job. Let's, just talk about business and everything. And Tori, wanting to avoid the Thriller Tori train, decides to just leave. Oh, wait, baby, where you got to go? And then Shivani, Tenay, and Stevie Ray welcome us. They're on commentary. Jarrett has some words for Sting. Step aside. It's time for me to take over. I'm going to expose you as the fraud you are at Halloween Havoc. This is where all the fake Stings show up. Because that worked so well at Halloween Havoc 1990 when they did it with, Barry Windham cutting his hair to look like Sting. And also at Halloween Havoc 97. That's when they did it, right? They had the Piper Hogan cage match and then had the fake Sting show up and it was pointless. Yeah, Jarrett kept talking about Sting and everything. Then suddenly, because we needed more of the Whack Pack plaguing this television show, we have Beetlejuice, the one of the midgets in Howard Stern's Whack Pack in the Superman suit, and he's like getting some cheers because apparently the fans were all drunk and thought he was actually Superman, or they just didn't give a fuck at this point. We're just going to cheer anything that seemed different than the bullshit wrestling they were watching. So here's bullshit celebrities. And then Jarrett attacks him, and then we cut to Steiner draping his pipe all over Booker's back, laying him out. Sting then attacks Jarrett, and then a fan attacks Sting. Oh no, it's Shane Douglas in a Sting mask. It's not like the Sting mask where Sting took off the mask to reveal it was him underneath. Stingception, if you will. And then figure 4 on Beetlejuice. And thus ends the show. Wait, no, this is only the first segment. They crammed so much shit into this. It seemed like this should have ended the show. But no, it got worse. It got way worse. We then have Booker on a stretcher, and he says to Stevie, take care of my business. Okay, I'll do that, because they're brothers. And then Scott's breaking up a room. Dacia says, I got an idea. Stop breaking shit. And also, I'm going to go talk to Mike Sanders. And today is very pro-Canada during this Jim Duggan interview. Well, promo, and then here's Sergeant AWOL. They have a match that is so fucking messy. What did you expect? Duggan was washed by this point, to be fair, after being in wrestling for 20 plus years. That was going to happen. And AWOL, the Wall was never all that good. He wasn't bad. He just wasn't that great. And Reno hits AWOL because they're continuing that thing with the hardcore title where they're going to have a rematch, I think, at Halloween Havoc. So credit to them for the announcers for actually plugging Halloween Havoc matches and saying what we're going to see. Unfortunately, with 25 days left, they were going to find a way to screw that shit up. And then Duggan pins AWOL after a table bump. And then Sting wants to hurt Douglas tonight. We get Sanders talking about the accolades of Natural Born Thrillers. And then ratings and Russo being seen as a god. Apparently Mike Sanders was hit in the head repeatedly before he did this promo. Nobody would see Vince Russo as a god. Only idiots would like Vince Russo. And I'm sorry, by the way, if you are anybody watching this show and you like Vince Russo, I just don't fucking get it. Nobody should basically, think of Russo in any kind of reverence except, oh, hey, let's look at him as an example of what not to do in wrestling, because I think he did more damage to wrestling than Jim Herd did. Watching this stuff, I actually think he did, because Jim Herd, yes, he was only there for 3 years, but Russo somehow managed to do more damage in a year and a half. It's actually a miracle. So, God damn it. He then Luger's in the crowd for some reason because he's not part of the active roster, and Sanders says, we're going to end Goldberg's streak. Here's Chronic. Chronic are some hired guns. Because when you pay for Chronic, sometimes it makes you happy and sometimes it makes you crash. That was an actual promo from Chronic a little bit later. And then, the Young Dragons versus Scott Steiner. This was Scott Steiner getting his revenge, taking out his frustrations all over 3 men. And Leia Meow and Medeja were also there, and the women start getting involved, where Leia Meow is choking Medeja with a strap. This is not good television. This is not good television at all. This isn't even good for, late night Cinemax. Or so I've heard. Never watched it. Or have I? Decide in the comments. This was bad. Double recliner for the win, because I think it was Jamieson and Kaz. I actually don't really know. I kind of tuned out at this point. And then Conan is put in the Natural Born Thrillers locker room. Well, room because Sanders is also kind of the commissioner. Because the cat is also the commissioner, but he's not there. And there are these agents there, and it's an immigration thing. We're doing an immigration storyline where, even though Conan's an American citizen, he can't go get his papers to prove it. Why? I mean, I'm not even a big Conan fan, but why? To what end? What did this solve? And then the rest of the filthy animals, they're like, well, hey, Tigress, go make yourself useful by getting off camera. But I don't know why I don't like Tigress, but she annoys me. Ray says, hey, go get Conan's papers and go take them to the locker room. Okay, cool, whatever. And then Douglas lays him out with a goddamn bat. And also we're going to get Ray versus Hoovy in a best-of-5 match. I think it's match number 3. Stevie then is talking to Luger about why he helped Russo. Luger then says there's a bunch of no talents on TV while he was sitting at home, and then talks about Hugh Morris, aka General Erection. Luger runs him down while he's standing like 5 feet from him, and apparently object permanence does not exist to Lex Luger. And one line from Luger, he will never touch the total package. And then Hugh Morris attacks him. Tony Schiavone says he just touched the total package from behind. If that isn't encompassing how bad WCW was at that point, I don't know what does. And I love Schiavone. I've had way more appreciation for what Schiavone had to go through, dealing with all the bullshit on commentary. But just, my God, at this point, he had totally checked out, and I don't blame him. WCW is unsalvageable at this point. And then we get Mike Awesome and Crowbar in 70s clothes, because that's what we need to see, is more of this bullshit. And then we get a video package on Goldberg and his streak. Chronic talking about being bought. Chronic is very expensive. Lance versus Mike Sanders. Not Skipper versus Sanders, because Lance said Skipper said he would step aside. Elix Skipper also sounds like he ingested helium every time he talks, and that's why he needed a manager. Because he looked great, and the guy was very undervalued in the ring, but he just shouldn't have talked. And then it's Cruiserweight title. It was a mess. It was a goddamn mess. Brawl around ringside. It was just fucking bullshit. Because Team Canada and Natural Born Thrillers were all around ringside. Major Guns sees that Storm gets the Canadian Maple Leaf on and rings the bell. That's just to distract Lance Storm, because she's tired of being probably on TV, but especially tired of being part of Team Canada. Then MIA tosses Storm back in the ring. Dreaded roll up 1, 2, 3. Sanders retains the Cruiserweight title. Tenay then interviews MIA. And Hugh Morris says the word potential about 50 million times and talks about, the pains of wrestling, which, to be fair, wrestling is a tough sport. But I don't really feel bad for Hugh Morris, given the piece of shit that he is, and how they are a well-oiled unit. Yes, let's picture MIA being a well-oiled unit. And then Mike Awesome and Crowbar are the Princes of Polyester, and they are taking on Jindrak and O'Hare in a WCW tag title match. The match was fine at first, but then got really messy because they were just setting up for a table spot. Crowbar landed outside after Awesome tossed him onto the Awesome Toss him. It's not like Awesome Possum, but tosses him onto the champs. And then soon after, Crowbar gets tossed through the table by Jindrak and O'Hare. 1, 2, 3. And that's the end of that. Buff Bagwell then talks about the Hancock-David situation. Buff always wraps his stuff with an actual line. And here's David with a doc, and he says, well, hey, let's just prove that, you're not the father. Let's take a DNA test. And he was going to get his blood. And then Buff says, oh, I'm afraid of needles. He hits the doctor, by the way, with the microphone. And if it's the doctor, he should totally sell the thing. He hits the DDT on David. The doctor's right up and trying to get blood from the vein. And I believe Schiavone says he's going to get that blood one way or another. And then, he lays him out. And then says, you figure it out, Flair. And they say, would that be something an innocent man would do? And then Douglas and Tori do promos. Tori, no doubt, wanting to be the denier that she is of recent events. Yeah, if you don't know about Tori Wilson, sorry, she's been dropped on her head one too many times. Or all the peroxide from, bleaching her hair finally leaked into what's left of her goddamn brain. Douglas versus Sting, it was a brawl, there was a table bump, a loaded punch. Conan kidnaps Tori because we need to have about 5 million things going on. And then Jarrett sneaks up after talking to Douglas earlier. Guitar shot to Sting's head. Franchiser 1, 2, 3. There you go. That's it. Goodbye. That's it for that. Man, I only got about 5.5 months left of this, and it feels like 5 years. But people like me reviewing them, and you know what? It's kind of fun to look back and think it could be worse. Anyway, agree, disagree, what I said. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.